Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family. Hello and welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning.
Hi, guys.
We are so excited to be with you today. We got some crazy cool news for you. This is a two-part podcast. We're going to talk for a long time and then just break it up into two because nobody likes to listen to You know, the people do podcasts for like an hour and a half. And
so if you want to listen to this for an hour and a half, then you can just play the second one as soon as you finish the first one.
That's right. But you got to wait to that second week because if you're at the
that's true. I'm talking to all of you that run behind on podcasts.
That would be me. That would definitely be me.
So, so many out there.
But if you're ahead of the game, then you're going to have to wait till next week. We have so much.
Go back to the exciting part.
We have so much to tell you. God's just given us, we've been doing Crazy Cool Family for a few years now. And it's been great.
Actually, we've been doing it for over 30 years, but the ministry itself has just been a few years.
And we've had great success with it. God's blessed us. We've reached people all over the world and just hundreds and thousands of families in different ways. And you know, one of the things that we know for sure now, having done this for a little while, is that when people apply our core concepts that God has put on our hearts, based on relationships, based on culture, we see families improving dramatically.
And we get feedback all the time, and we absolutely love it, and we give all the glory to God. But we get an email from a mom that says, "Oh my goodness, I encouraged my child extravagantly today, and she's a completely different little girl."
Right.
Or we'll get a response back on
maybe I shared the why about discipline, and all of a sudden now my child is such a they are starting to obey and they start to do things differently or whatever, just over and over again. What were you going to say? I interrupted you.
That's all right. I was going to just finish it with saying on social media. I love that. If you're not following us on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, then follow us because we get so many comments on that too. Like, this is so good and this works and I've tried this and thanks for opening my eyes to these new ideas and I'm applying them and they're working. And so we just want to invite you into that too.
And with that, one of the things we've done in the past is many of you know we have a site called Basecamp, and it's a membership site. And what Basecamp does is we basically try to bring people into Basecamp to give them concentrated training over time so that, and people pay a monthly fee for it. And, they it's like Netflix for parenting. You can come in and we have all of our courses on there, and we do launches where we've done webinars and attracted people to it and done what's called a funnel. So you build the crowd and then you do the funnel and certain people join. And that's been great. We've reached people. Literally, it's been such a blessing because we've reached people, like we say, literally all over the English-speaking world. We don't do it in other languages.
Although someone did ask to translate it to French, and we're like, yes. The way I think about Basecamp is if you were to have a series of books, a book series, like when we were growing up, the girls would read like the Little House on the Prairie book series or Nancy Drew book series or whatever that is.
The Hardy Boys, if you were a boy.
Exactly. And so, I always loved it when there was more than one book because I wasn't ready for the story to end yet. And that's kind of like what Basecamp is it started out with the story, the book of Crazy Cool Family. And what in our book, we just touched down on a whole bunch of different concepts that it's almost like we give you one lick of the popsicle and that's it in the book. But Basecamp gives you the whole popsicle. It dives deep into each of the concepts. Well, for those of you that like chocolate, it's most definitely chocolate. But then there's those that like vanilla, so then it's vanilla for you as well. But I'm even glad you said that. If we want to use our analogy a little further, when it comes to one scoop of or one dip of or one lick of ice cream versus the whole gallon of ice cream, it really is wired even for your family. We don't know your family, but we know that you want to have a crazy cool family, and so we do know that the concepts that we teach through Basecamp are applicable to every family. They're universal, because the bottom line is it's all about relationships.
And did y'all notice she went from popsicles to ice cream? She started out with popsicles. That's why I asked what flavor.
I was going to do lollipops.
Oh wow! See, so I was going to go with like a grape popsicle. I mean, what was your favorite? You might go with cherry, but then she
fudgesicle. No, all the way fudgesicle.
So
or Eskimo pie would be chocolate and vanilla.
Yeah, but then she went to ice cream, started doing chocolate and vanilla, and so
Dawn loves ice cream way more than a popsicle, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if you're going to do calories, do ice cream, right?
Absolutely. Popsicles are so overrated.
Okay, so back to Basecamp. We
can do a whole podcast on whether different types of cold treats.
Yeah, but there's no cold treats in Basecamp. Yeah. I mean, but I do say if you do finish a course, by all means, then reward yourself with a cold treat.
With ice cream. But Basecamp, we are making some changes to Basecamp. I want to put that, it's all in your favor. I want to bring that out towards the end, because let's just talk about what we've been. Suzanne kept talking about what we were doing in Basecamp. We want to talk about how we're going to interact with you in Basecamp and in all of our ministry towards the end of the podcast. So wait for that. Some great news coming up. But what is Basecamp? So many times it's so funny how we are immersed in this ministry all the time. So we are always talking to parents about it and things. And so we tend to think that everybody knows everything. And then we talk to people and they go, what's Basecamp? Or what's this concept? Or I didn't know you had a book. Or really you have a podcast. And so we thought we'd just take some time, since we're launching some new strategies, some different things, just to take some time and go back over kind of who we are and what we're doing. And just starting out with those, Suzanne talked about the book, and the book does have an overview of what a crazy cool family looks like. But really the courses in Basecamp, we were able to really dive deep, and we understand that most people today don't read as much, or if they do, it's quick stuff, but a lot of people are watching videos. And so what we did was we took all of our core concepts, all of the things in our book and all of the core concepts of Crazy Cool Family, and we put them in short video series. And that's what Basecamp really is. There's a lot of other things in there, but
we can talk. We'll talk more about maybe more details of Basecamp. Maybe we'll get to that if we don't get distracted with ice cream or pizza or whatever. But let's just talk for a second. You mentioned core concepts. And so let's talk about those for a second. And I know that those of you that are super familiar with Crazy Cool Family and Basecamp and you've read the book, you might know the core concepts, but sometimes it helps to just go over it again. And those of you, this might even be new information for you. You might not even realize that this is the springboard that we have built everything on when it comes to how we want to encourage and invest and empower your family.
Because maybe you've just started listening to our podcast, and maybe you just got through with our Joy Switch podcast we just got done with, and that's all you know about Crazy Cool Family, or maybe you have just read the book or whatever. So it's either a review for you, or maybe it's new information.
And I say this all the time, but what is it? We have to be exposed to something 7 times before we own it. Yeah. And so if you've only been exposed 6 times, then this is now the time you're going to own it. Super excited for you. You can reward yourself with some ice cream after the podcast.
What Suzanne and I found over many, many years of parenting, and 7 kids in 30 years, or maybe 20 years at the time when we started, was that it really came down to what our core verse is Matthew 22, 37 through 40. They asked Jesus what was most important, and Jesus said, there are 2 commandments. Love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, and mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second's like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And we learned from that family is all about loving God, loving yourself, creating that relationship with God, and out of building your own identity, loving your family as you want to be loved. In other words, family's all about relationships.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
I was about to say, so what we're trying to say is that it's all about relationship.
Yeah.
When you focus on the relationships of your family, then you can't help but make your family better.
Which gave the vision of Crazy Cool Family, which is that the strength of your family will be determined, not might, but it will be determined by the strength of your family relationships. And so but easy to say, not easy to do. And so we started to say, how do we teach families to become relationship experts? What Suzanne and I found is that the difference, the families who had godly kids, the families who were connecting with their kids and they had good relationships, were the families that were quote unquote successful. They were, and it wasn't just us, it was other people. We learned this from many other successful parents. And we found that they were pursuing relationships at a high level. And we found that's what we were doing. We valued relationships more than performance. We valued the connection more than the control. And it even came to where, if you've been around us, you know that there's what we call our family dashboard. And if you think about it, you can envision this. You draw God at the top, and then you draw the husband and the wife, or a single parent if they're right there. You draw the kids down below them, and then you start drawing lines to connect everybody. The parent to God, the marriage, the parent to the kid to God, the kid to kid. And all of a sudden, you've got a bunch of lines in this dashboard. And what we found is so go those lines, so goes your family.
And what I love about it is it's actually a visual, and it shows you all the relationships in your family. And we talk about all the time that you can use that almost as a diagnostic tool, and you can draw solid lines as you're representing each of the families, but there might be a situation where maybe you're not getting along with your 7-year-old. And so if you think about that line, mom to 7-year-old, and you're thinking that is not a strong line right now, then that brings to mind, oh, I need to work on that line. I need to pay attention to that. And that's what we're talking about is honing in on the individual relationships in your family, paying attention to those, investing in those. And when you do that, then it makes the family stronger. It makes the family better. It makes the relationship stronger and better.
Because think about it like this. If my teenager loves Jesus, they're going to be an easy kid to parent. Because if I know my 7-year-old, I don't have a 7-year-old anymore, but if I did, and I know my 7-year-old, I'm going to have the wisdom to parent them better. If I'm connected to God, God's going to give me wisdom and insight to be able to love my wife, to be able to love my children better. And he does. When I am connected to God, I am a better parent. I mean, does that not make sense?
Yes, and even like that, I know that we talk a lot in Crazy Cool Family, but through Basecamp, about siblings as best friends. That's just one of our mantras that we say. But as your kids get along with each other, they have their own relationship line, kid to kid. And when your kids get along with each other, isn't it amazing the atmosphere in your home, how much it changes, how much more peaceful it is when they're not bickering and fighting and tattling and beating each other up all the time.
Or what if you get along with your spouse?
Yeah, and that's the foundational line. I mean, that one right there is like, I know that if Don's upset with me or I'm upset with him and he goes to work, then I have a lousy day all day long. And so I think throughout the day, what can I do to invest in that relational line? What can I do?
What if, we just got through with the Joy Switch book. What if you're walking your day with joy? What if you're just walking into a house and you're joyful and life-giving? What a game changer that can be, because you're walking with Jesus. You have hope. There's so many things that relationships do. And so what we found the other thing we found was that you have to create an environment, what we call a culture, for relationships to flourish. That in effect, family needs to be like a greenhouse. And what we mean by a greenhouse is that, you think about a greenhouse, it's got the right nutrients, it's got the right lighting, it's got the right water, it's got the right soil, it's got the right atmosphere, and so that the plants in that greenhouse can grow. And Yet so many times as we try to pursue relationships, we have a culture in our home that where parents don't listen to their kids. Our parents are very harsh with their kids.
I always think it's so funny when I talk to a parent and they'll say, my 3-year-old yells at me all the time. And I'm like, do you yell? Well, yeah. I mean, I'm the parent. And I'm like, well, they're mirroring you. I mean, that's the culture in your home. That's the environment. That's what you've created. And I love it when parents say to us, I can't stand the culture in our home right now, because we always turn around and say, oh, great, you can change it. Yeah. You have the power. If your 3-year-old's yelling at you and you don't want him to yell at you anymore, then guess what? Stop yelling, and they'll stop yelling.
And that's just one thing that we found, is that so many parents are worried about the outside.
Yeah, that's good.
And
that's
they're
really
so
good.
worried about what the outside's going to do to their home. And the revelation God gave us was, look, focus on the inside.
Yes.
And then focus on the culture, the relationships, focus on building it right. And then the outside won't have the power. The outside has the power because we give it the power.
Exactly. If you fortify your kids' hearts that they love Jesus and they love you, then no matter what the world brings to them, they're going to talk to you about it, and they're going to go to Jesus about it. And that's what we want. And that's actually what we have control over. We actually have no control over the outside. When parents come to us and say, oh, all these things are happening on the outside, I'm like, I'm sorry, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. But you can do a lot on the inside. Yeah. You can tell your child this. You can share with your child this. You can empower your child this way.
And it also starts with you, parents. It starts with us.
Yeah, which is so cool.
Yeah, it starts with, because
we get to go first.
We talk so often that your example is more important than your instruction. And as you love Jesus, then you will start showing your kids a Jesus worth loving. And so in all of our social media stuff, but particularly in Basecamp right now, we developed, if you go into, so you think about, there's 2 key words of Crazy Cool Family: relationships and culture. We break that down into 3 commitments, which is pursue God, because the most important relationship any of us has is with God. Pursue God, build relationships, create culture. We call those our 3 commitments. And then out of that comes 4 elements of culture that we found that the most important values come down to encouragement, how we speak to our kids.
And then how we create a safe place for our kids. We listen to them and allow them to talk to us. And we ask them questions so that it opens their hearts up toward us. And so we create a safe place. That's part of culture.
Yeah. And then discipline, how we discipline towards self-control, away from parent control, through what we call relational discipline.
Yeah, I think of it more like discipleship. You know, you're coming along beside your child and you're helping them grow up in this world. You're not telling them what to do all the time. You're letting them experience it. Anyway, we've got a whole course on that. It's amazing.
Yeah, and then unity. You know, how to build unity in your home and how to unite different people together and celebrate all the different people God's given together. We also talk about relationships, the 5 types of relationships, just real quickly. We've gone over them just a little bit already. The parent to God relationship, the marriage, parent to kid, kid to kid.
And then kid to God.
Kid to God.
Yeah.
And so all of that is, and you can tell, you're like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of information. And that's why we talk about Basecamp. We say, hey, it's more than a book, because parents, you don't learn parenting in a week. You don't learn parenting by just reading a book. You learn parenting over months and years as you develop, as your kids develop, and God, as we can drip concepts into you that help you develop that framework to lead your home.
And so Don has got it so neat and tidy. He says, all you have to do to remember it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so 1, family dashboard, that's the personal part of your family. 2 keywords, relationship and culture, where you're going to focus all your energy and your intention. Your 3 commitments, your pursue God, build relationship, create culture. That's where, if you commit to those, and then your 4 pillars of culture, that's where you get to work and play and just grow in your family. And then those 5 relationships, which we've talked so much about already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's, just think about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You think about those things, focus on those things. pretty amazing families coming your way.
Absolutely. Your kids will say, what happened to my parents? Because
and our family and my sister, I like her all of a sudden. How did that happen?
Yeah. And so you can be different. What we found is that the world, so many times the church tells us and other parents tell us to do things that are like the world, that we need to be fearful of the world.
Right.
We need to control our kids. We need to, make sure that they are performing at the highest level because they need to get into the best college and be the best athlete or whatever that is. And all those things can be good. But what does God tell? God's ways are always different.
Mm-hmm.
And God
and better.
says, yes, and God says, focus first on what? The heart. And he says, delight yourself in the Lord. He says, do things that are my ways instead of the world's ways. And so that's what we try to do at Crazy Cool Family, but it's a process. And it's something that you learn over time. And it's something that you learn as you're learning to walk more and more with Jesus. Then you become open and you become more and more able to do relationships better and to build that culture in your home.
And so what I love about family and how God designed it is that it is a journey. It starts with gestation, and he's so sweet to give us 9 months to grow into being a mom and a dad, and then that newborn stage where the baby doesn't do much, but we learn a lot. We learn self-sacrifice and selfishness, and there's a lot there's unconditional love that happens. And then he just gracefully starts giving us that toddler that becomes a little bit rebellious, and then that, middle school, and then it just goes up, and it's a journey. It's a 18, 20, 25, 30 year journey that we get to go on with our kids. And we would be foolish to think that we were completely equipped to do that journey the second we conceived that baby. That it's just not true. There's so much that we don't know about how to interact with little people. We don't know about that role. The world does not prepare us and equip us. It teaches us our ABCs and our 1, 2, 3s, but it does not teach us how to have relationships with each other at the level that we're talking about here at Crazy Cool Family.
Yeah, and so we wanted a method. We wrote a book at first, and it helped us to get all of our thoughts down. It was kind of like, we had to, a book really makes you think about how you're presenting yourself to people. Mm-hmm. So that was great. And it led us
It's called Crazy Cool Family. If you haven't heard of it, picked it up yet, or anything else like that, it's on Amazon.
But then we realized that a book is great, but a book is not going to be the end all, be all to be able to teach families and inspire them like we want to.
And so we probably could have done a series of 100 books, but since in this day and age, people don't read books, which you mentioned in the beginning, is this new, with technology, we don't even have to read a book, that we actually can give you a concept, a short, simple, complex, word I'm talking about. The concept is the word I'm looking for. Short, simple, complex concept. My goodness. On a video.
Yeah.
And you can pick it up and you can watch it for 5, 10, 15 minutes and then apply it all week in your family.
Yeah, because so many of these concepts, they just take time to learn how to do. Let me give you an example. So let's say that you're going to learn how to respond instead of react. Okay, that's a principle. It's in our disciplined driver class. Okay, I don't know about you, but I've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes I still react rather than respond. But
that's good.
I know.
What's the difference?
The difference is it's timing for one. It's taking a breath. But I'm much better at it today than I was 15 years ago.
Right. Because you've been practicing it.
Exactly. And so we wanted to have all these concepts available to you all the time, and literally not just in a book, but on your phone, on your tablet, wherever you are. Your computer. And allow you to learn them at your own pace. And because so many times you get something and you're ready for this lesson, but you're not ready for the next one.
Right.
So, maybe forgiveness is going to be really hard for you. So we have to kind of table that and come back to it, but forgiveness doesn't change. God still wants you to be a forgiving person, but maybe that's hard because you're going through some discipleship and you got to release some things in order to be able to forgive. So we were like, okay, how do we do this? How do we use technology? The other thing we're dealing with, most of you guys are younger than we are, and all of you probably.
You're at the beginning of your family journey.
And so, and what do you use? How are you different than us? Technology is even a bigger part of your life than it is of our lives. And so we said, hey, how do we do that? And what was coming out at the time, and is still coming out, are some people are using courses, and we're kind of through with DVDs and things like that, but more like online courses and things. But a lot of people were using membership sites. And what is a membership site? It is simply a place that you can go. Netflix is a membership site. You're a member and you go watch all their content. That's exactly but ours is just more specialized for parenting. We're like, and we saw this, our technology people said, hey, here's a membership site. And we're like, oh, this is cool. Why? Because you always have it. Mm-hmm. And we can always add to it. Mm-hmm. We can always change it. We can always develop it. We can always make it better. We're not just giving you a course or a book and it's static. There's so many things. It's adaptable. You can use it in the short term, and but yet we can stay with you for months and years at a time.
The way that I see subscription services, and I love them so much, like I'm a part of a few different subscription services, Faster Way to Weight Loss, and there's a few other things. And what I love about it is I feel like that we've gathered for you guys, Basecamp people, we've gathered like-minded people, parents just like you, together in one place so that we can encourage you and empower you, and we can give you pieces of information on a weekly, monthly basis, and then you have access to it too. It's like a drive-through, or it's a grocery store, or it's a restaurant, or it's a family living room. It can be any of those things because you have access to all of it because of technology.
And so we're going to end our podcast. We're going to end part one right now with a special announcement that in the past, we have said that Basecamp was a monthly charge for people. And the revelation that we've gotten in this summer is Basecamp, and we've gotten provision to be able to do it too, that Basecamp's going to be free.
I know we were so excited because there's so many different people that we ran across, and God was so sweet to just show us these people, and we wanted to give them or show them Basecamp or invite them into Basecamp, and they were like, we can't do that right now. We can't do that. And we thought, well, we want to do that. We want you to be able to do that. We want to invite you in. We want you to have the best crazy cool family that you can have. And it doesn't matter if you've got the funds to invest in a subscription service or not. We want to open the doors.
Yeah, we don't want any barriers to be able to learn, to have families learn how to be crazy cool. And so we flip that. And so to be a free service, it's beginning October 1st. And next week, we are going to talk in depth about Basecamp and also how Basecamp is now going to relate to our other social media platforms and how we're going to integrate it all to give you this incredible service that's going to help you in every step of your parenting journey. Right now, we'll just make the announcement that it's free. If you want to, if we don't, you will be seeing things coming through in your email. And if
we have your email, right?
If we don't have your email, go to the notes, the show notes, episode notes, and you will see a link to our Connect page. And if you'll go, number 1, social media, I think, and number 2 is our podcast. Number 3 is a place for you to give us your name and email address. So if you have not given us if you're not getting emails from us, then go and connect with us on the Connect page in the show notes, and you will be emailing you as we get closer to October 1st and give you a link to get into Basecamp for free. So next week, we're going to tell you so much more about Basecamp and about how you can interact with this to learn from it and use it in your everyday life for the next decade. And but in the meantime, we will finish today because we told you it'd be 2 parts.
So say, wrap it up.
And,
Wrap it up.
so
We'll talk more about the next one next time.
Go get some ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. Get
and-
yourself some ice cream.
And we will see you next time. Go be crazy, parents. CrazyCoolFamily.com.